Have you ever wondered how to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time? I think it's a challenge that we all try and encounter. But today, live from the Vegan Superhero Retreat, I'm going to bring you a conversation that will really showcase some key learning points from a vegan superhero athlete that has been on the journey and wants to share, along with his amazing coach, how you can apply these principles to your own health journey. Welcome. I'm Dr. Daphne Bascom, and you are listening to the Vegan Gym podcast. As I shared, we are at the Vegan Superhero Retreat, and I have two amazing guests with me, Coach Daniel Lawrence and our athlete, Aaron Hedquist. Welcome to the Vegan Gym podcast.
Thank you very much, Daphne. Appreciate it.
Hi, thank you.
So, Daniel, how to lose fat and gain muscle?
It's really simple, actually. We look at where the athlete is and we adjust nutrition and training and daily habits in order to suit their needs and to put them on the right path. And it comes down to resistance training, eating healthily, eating plenty of protein, adequate amount of calories, if they can, a bit of cardio if it's needed. And that about sums it up.
That sounds simple, but I'd love to hear how you've been working with Aaron and what the two of you, as we all know, there's not a linear path to any journey. Mm-hmm. So in looking at the goals, mm-hmm. how you planned, how you structured all that, how you didn't try and eat the elephant all at once, but to try and eat the elephant one bite at a time. Why don't you share more with our audience about the tactical, practical tips as to how you as a coach work with your wonderful athlete? And then from Aaron's perspective, what was this like for you?
Okay. So the big thing with Aaron is he's really, really fond of soccer and he's a big advocate of soccer and he really wanted to delve down that route, not just purely gain muscle and build or gain muscle and lose fat, but he really wanted to increase his performance when it came to soccer as well. And we also had some smaller goals that he wanted to go after. And it's really looking about each of those goals individually. So when we looked at soccer, I believe a big thing that we wanted to improve on was endurance as well, explosive endurance, correct? Because you play the short style 5-side soccer.
Yeah, exactly. I think I specifically asked to increase my VO2 max. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think when I came into the program, I gave Daniel a lot of instructions as to all the things I wanted to do, because it was like, well, I kind of want to do everything. I want to lose weight. I want to gain muscle. I want to increase my VO2 max. I want my back to feel better. Like all these things, do as much I can to keep my functionality as high as possible. And that was like one of the first things. It was just so helpful to have is kind of like offload all of that to Daniel and have him be like, okay, here's a plan. And I just get in my head so much sometimes about like what I should be doing. Before that, I really lacked a lot of consistency. Mm-hmm. And having that like initial 3-month plan that we did and knowing that this is just part of like a year's journey, that alone was like super helpful to start.
Absolutely. I think one of the big things that we wanted to focus on at the beginning was your ability to recover from sessions. Mm-hmm. We were doing way too much in the beginning and we scaled back and we really focused on specific sessions to improve recovery as well, focusing specifically on hypertrophy training, strength training, explosive training. And then your recovery kind of improved once we got to the point where we found out how much volume you could handle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that tuning was really interesting to me because I think, again, when I had come in and I shared with you my earlier workouts I had been doing, and I had also just been like so exhausted every weekend after doing those workouts.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. And you're like, that's a ton of volume, Aaron. What are you doing? I was like, it's not supposed to be like this. This is too much. But I had this like perfectionist impulse in me when it comes to all this. I'm like, I need to be doing everything all at once. I need to go for a jog and then go to the gym and do all this stuff. And so yeah, for me, like Daniel coming in and being like, here's the plan. It's also like taper it down. Yeah. It took a while for me to really trust that because my initial thought was like, I'm not doing enough.
More is not always better.
It's not.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when we started getting to the niggles and the sore aches and stuff, and we adjusted those, like, so the lower back pain, things like that, we started putting in the movements that could get him the results without increasing that back pain. I think that paid off and great dividends to allow you to improve without being emotionally tied to exercises that we quote unquote have to do, but doing the exercises that actually gave you great results, like the Nordic curls. I know we were very, like, those were tough in the beginning, but he got so good at them. Like, he would send me his videos, and they were fantastic. And I believe that's going to pay great dividends in that short sprint endurance, or the short sprint explosiveness when it comes to soccer.
So, Daniel, how did you prioritize? Did you talk to Aaron about, because you mentioned hypertrophy, and just want to make sure we explain that for people who are listening. But did you say we're going to lose fat first? We're going to, get you on maintenance at a lower volume. We're going to try and build muscle first. I think people struggle because what, Aaron shared, and thank you for sharing that. We want to do everything perfect. And I think many of us think more is better. And if I'm not doing more, I'm not making gains, or I'm not meeting my goal. So how do you as a coach dissect that and set, here's what we're going to do first, and then translate that to the athlete in terms of the short and the long-term plan?
I think I have to give Aaron great props to this, that he was completely honest with me. I advocate honesty between my relationship with clients so much. And I asked him from the beginning, like, I need your honesty. What is the most important? What do you struggle with? And so we started delving down that route. So hypertrophy for even for soccer players is still important, because a larger muscle potentially has the capabilities to produce more force. That's why we do a bit of hypertrophy, because it can. But it's important that we also just have that power and strength to drive you through those actions. And so that's why I wanted to focus on hypertrophy, because it's short explosiveness. And that's going to allow him to work harder in the field. So once that's taken care of, we can improve the endurance, because endurance takes a bit of a while to gain, but strength takes really long to lose. Now, I think that we've worked together because I used to be an athlete and I did pre-seasons as well. So I just employed very similar things. I looked at where he specifically needed those kind of improvements. And so we work with him, we explain with him. We'll get into nutrition at some point in the podcast as well, but we focused on your game day nutrition as well, because that's something you really wanted to focus on. So it's literally just listening to your clients and understanding that rather than trying to climb this mountain of, I need to do everything perfectly, focus on the next step, just the next step, because that's the only thing that we can do. So that's why we focus on these specific sections. That's why I told you after the VSA retreat, which we're currently on, we're going into the next phase of training, which is really translating all that power and strength we've gained onto the field. So doing a lot more on-field work, running, sprinting, getting out of the blocks, because that's something that he just carried over with. He said that recently, you said like you can get through a whole game day with people that are younger with you, and you was like flying, you were...
I feel amazing. No, it was actually surprising, because basically when I started with VSA, I had been playing like a pickup game with some friends, small-sided, but they hadn't met in a while. A lot of them had been traveling and stuff. So I ended up not playing for like weeks. And here I've been like gaining all the strength. So I suddenly, when I went and played again, I was actually shocked at how much faster I was. And I was like, I couldn't do some of this before for sure. Like, it was really apparent. So that contrast was like really rewarding. That's actually
amazing.
And so we're going to translate all that strength to even more of a bit of endurance and field capabilities work, because there is a difference between training in the gym and training on the field, but they do have a carryover. So now the next part of his training is really that we're currently setting up is taking all of that and putting it on the field. So we found a place where you can train on the field. We discussed that. Does your gym accommodate that? So we found a field. We're going to do some strength work and then move over to the field to finish off your session on the field. So it's really just about doing what's best for your client, listening to them, understanding them, and then just giving them what they need and giving them what they want.
And before the two of you share a little bit about nutrition, because I know just the baseline nutrition, then the pregame and postgame is probably important. Aaron mentioned he wanted to improve his VO2 max. So Aaron, did you actually measure your VO2 max prior, and you're tracking it as a metric for your progress?
Yeah, I am tracking it. I did a VO2 max at when I did a DEXA scan. I haven't done another VO2 max training with them yet, but I have been tracking on my Apple phone. And it is going up. I think it's slow to change probably, but yeah, I'm excited to do another like real world DEXA scan to see where that is. Yeah.
So Daniel, what's the magic nutrition formula that you've put together for Aaron?
Well, the big thing that Aaron wanted to do, as we know for field work, Muscle doesn't slow you down. Excess weight does, unfortunately. And I know this not just from the science, but from personal experience as well. I've gone into preseason games a bit heavier than I should have been, and it's a bit hard. So we wanted to lose some weight. And so we delved in on that, and Aaron did brilliantly reporting back to me, like, this is what I'm struggling with. We need to improve on this. I need to get in more protein. I need to get in more protein-rich meals. And I have to give Aaron props. He was bang on every single week, doing absolutely perfectly. Eating his vegetables. At some point he was like, listen, man, I'm eating a ton of protein and veggies. And I'm like, yeah, you're like the final 2 weeks of weight loss, my friend. This is what it's going to be like game day. And then actually we started employing a bit of carbohydrate cycling as well, to allow him to get more carbohydrates on the days that are more excessive. So game day is a bit more excessive. So let's say you have, for argument's sake, 2,000 calories a day. Per week, that's 1,400 calories. You can make it 1,800 for 6 days of a week, then you have an extra 1,200 calories to spend on your Saturday. And as we know, carbohydrate intake, because it's protein sparing, can help with recovery. It can drive nutrient partitioning as well. And it can help with performance as well. So that's something that we employ to help him get a bit more Gatorade, a little bit more fast digesting carbs in and around his performance on Saturdays, which are, for our terms, I guess, the most important part of your training week is actually getting on the field and performing. And so we partition more carbs, and that absolutely helped you. But we also delved a bit into your game day nutrition, because you didn't really have game day nutrition before.
No, yeah, I wasn't really sure what to eat. I would usually, my history was actually like not eating before workouts and not eating before soccer. Mostly because I think previously I'd probably eaten the wrong things, and I would go in kind of heavy and just not feel very good. So instead of doing that, I would just not eat. But now, especially now that I'm playing a little bit later in the morning, it's been nice to have kind of, Daniel gave me a nice kind of ramp up schedule of like, have a little bit of Gatorade, have a little bit of, toast and things like that to kind of work up to it, and give me the right amount of like glucose without overdoing it.
Right. That if people overdo glucose or overdo electrolytes, sometimes they get a bit nauseous. So something we learned is to maybe dilute your Gatorade, but to just get it to go down easier. And obviously that hydration is very important. But you still want something a bit that's actually a bit of food. So toast, really great to get that food down. You wouldn't want something that's extremely high in fat. You wouldn't want something that's extremely high in fiber, because that's just going to sit in your stomach. Can make you a bit nauseous, can slow you down a bit. So you want quick digestion. Similar afterwards you can probably put in a bit more protein to help that recovery, amino acids. But I think Aaron did brilliantly. Again, he came to me, he was very honest, and he said, listen, this is something that I want to improve on. And so I could do the research, I can come back to him. It's like, this is the game plan, this is why we want to do it. Because Aaron is extremely interested in the science, and I love that. I love people who want to know the why behind why we actually do something. And so we sat on our calls and we said, this is what we're going to do, this is why we're going to do it. And that had tremendous impact.
So, Aaron, are your teammates also vegan?
I don't think I have any vegan teammates now.
So are they asking you where you get your protein from?
I don't know that most of my teammates know that I'm vegan, actually. I don't bring it up unless someone, asks or something. But, I think the fact that, like, if they can't tell, right, I'm also
that's
older than most of them too.
Right.
So I'm just like, that's my secret. It's my secret power. You don't get to know.
That's brilliant.
And Daniel, what about recovery? So Aaron's had a heavy game day, and how do you factor in making sure he's recovering appropriately, both from a training perspective and a nutrition perspective?
So nutrition wise, we just, again, we allocated more food to the training days, or the big training days, to allow for recovery as well. A big way that I can gauge recovery aspect is whether or not someone is actually improving in strength. So if someone is not getting better, that's why we have heavy, and that's why we go into heavy and we look behind the app. If we can see we are progressing, I know that someone is in the green. That said, Aaron is also, again, very communicative about feeling. We have all these electronic devices telling us, like, oh, your recovery is that good. That's great. That's fantastic. And I believe the science behind it, but pure feeling, like feeling how someone is, like, I feel run down. And I trust Aaron tremendously to tell me, like, I'm feeling run down. And then I can see from his workouts whether or not he's improving. So that's a big way that I gauge recovery. And then we would also just work on manipulating his schedule to allow for best recovery. Because again, in the beginning, Aaron was a bit overdoing it. And there was even a point where our recovery capabilities reached its peak. So we also had to adjust our program. And that's going to change due to work environment, because Aaron actually got a promotion, a massive promotion at work. Well done again for that.
Congratulations.
Exactly. So he got a great promotion at work. So he had a lot of stuff on his plate at work. And so that's going to impact recovery. That's going to impact training, as everything does, because at the end of the day, his work pays his bills. That becomes very, very important. And so we have to allocate that, and we have to make sure that he's capable of functioning best at work. And so that's something that we also took into account, and just adjusting his training schedule to allow for recovery best.
And do the two of you also talk about sleep and stress? I mean, congratulations on the promotion, but sleep and stress seem to be a factor that may be part of your coaching conversations, or not just coaching, but again, bringing it back to how to lose fat and gain muscle.
Yeah. I believe that we've spoken about sleep a lot.
Yeah.
Trying to improve it. We've delved down the route of certain methods, certain supplementations. We found something at work. We backscaled because at some point it stopped giving us great results. I believe with the
magnesium.
Yes. So it's something that we absolutely discuss, and it seems to be improving now as well.
Yeah. That's actually going to be my personal next area of focus, I think.
Okay.
Because I'm excited to see if I can get even more sleep. I kind of got back to like a normal amount of sleep for me, or at least what I've been able to do at my best historically, which was around 7.25 to 7.5 hours. But I'm still, I think I can do better. And I feel like my recovery, I'm curious to see if I can get closer to 8 hours of actual, sleep. And I think that will help me, at work and with the workouts and everything.
Absolutely.
So I think it's something that's kind of overdue to even try to push on a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, that's about trying to find where the potholes are, per se, if there are potholes in our programming, in his daily habits, in his nutrition. So we obviously use a brilliant app that tells us exactly how much vitamins and micronutrients we get, so we can go down that route and see, are we missing anything like week by week, we're missing something. Let's try and bump those numbers up, see what the results are, report back on it, build a report. Okay, this works brilliantly. And he mentioned magnesium. Magnesium worked great for us for a while, and then it stopped giving us beneficial results. It doesn't necessarily mean magnesium is bad. It just means magnesium is bad for this situation. Not even bad. It's just not giving us the appropriate for this situation. And then we build a report from that, and then we find something that works. And again, Aaron is individual. So we have to find what works for him, what works best for him. That might be nutrition-wise. That might be something like yoga. That might be something unwinding, getting away from blue lights, anything like that, to try and improve.
So I'd love to hear from both of you, because I think a lot of people think to lose fat and gain muscle, again, they just have to do more. So eat less, move more. We hear it a lot from a diet culture perspective, but how did you structure nutrition, training? I'd love to hear why sleep is important for losing fat and gaining muscle, but then also allowing Aaron the flexibility of life. Because I think a lot of people struggle with, I have this goal I want to achieve, but there's also life that I have to navigate.
Right.
So can you both of you share a little bit more about that, or love to hear how, you talked to Daniel about it.
Right. So the big thing that Aaron came to me and he's like, I have this goal. Aaron was very driven. I have this goal. I want to get better at soccer. I want to improve my life. I've done a ton of research on this. I want to improve. So I gave him the full beans. I was like, listen, this is what we have to improve on. This is what we can absolutely count for life. When he got the promotion, he's like, listen, I want to go out Friday night for, I think you went for Mexican nachos.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely.
So he was like, I want to go out for that. I was absolutely go for it, man. We can talk about partitioning nutrition that day if you want to, but it happens once every, like, go for it. So when it comes to nutrition and training for losing fat and building muscle at the same time, that doing more, eating less, technically you could eat 2 candy bars a day, hit 15, okay,
exactly.
pretty big calorie bars or candy bars, but you can hit 1,500 calories, which is less. You're not going to make any progress. So I believe probably at some point you notice the amount of vegetables and protein you eat. It's like, damn, this is a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah. I had to really, the vegetables were clutch, really, because they just fill you up so much better than anything else. If And I've definitely made some mistakes, as we started transitioning to lower and lower calories, where I'd be like, oh, I'll just have like a piece of bread or like a few chips or something that I would have had prior to joining the program. And then I would enter it into, Chronometer and be like, uh-oh. That was a huge mistake.
That's okay. It happens to the best of us.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah. So then I just started really looking for, okay, the game is first look for protein first, right? Really prioritize that. Then if I have any extra calories at the end of the day and I've hit my protein goal, then I'll reach for maybe something else.
Yes.
Some carbs or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the big thing is, as you mentioned, protein is going to be one of the biggest driving factors. When we look at the studies done by Dr. Jose Antonio, 2014, 2016, the various other studies that have been published, protein is one of the most important macronutrient, if I could be so bold, when it comes to achieving the goals such as losing fat and building muscle at the same time. Because it plays into both parts, because it can help you lose fat and it helps you tremendously building muscle, obviously. And then resistance training, even though he's a soccer player, which doesn't necessarily, you wouldn't think of resistance being that important to soccer players, but he does a ton of resistance training, because he still needs to jump. He still needs to fight on the field with other people. He still needs to have some upper body mass in order to battle with them. And obviously that translates into building muscle, losing fat at the same time. So you still need to do quite a bit of resistance training. And then we also incorporated quite a lot of cardiovascular training. And at some point we had a cardio system to try and improve something. And he came back to me and said, this is taking too much time. Adjust it. And so that's your responsibility as a coach to look at it and say, cool, we are going to do this instead. It's going to save you time. It's going to give you very similar results, but we're going to go from a long endurance training session, something that you would probably be doing as a runner, to something that's a bit more medium length, with a bit more intensity. And that's actually going to translate better to his
soccer
as well. So it's about just making sure that we take what the studies say, so with the protein resistance training, and then looking where you are in your life and finding that middle ground, connecting the two. Because it's great to say, oh, I'm going to live according to the studies, but you still have a life. You still get promotions. You still have a dog. You still have a wonderful dog. You moved and you were really tired after you moved like 2 weeks ago. And so you took 2 days off of training, and I gave that to him, because moving is a big, big, big thing. It takes, especially when you do it alone, it takes a ton off you. So it's just about looking at what could be ideal and what's realistic, and finding that sweet middle ground in the middle.
And Aaron, what is your perspective on this? The cardio, and making your program fit your life too.
Yeah, no, Daniel was really helpful with that. At first I was like a little bit cautious. My own anxieties about it. I was like, I don't know if I should ask him or tell him that I'm having a hard time completing these things, But I really appreciate Daniel understanding all of that and making those adjustments, and that made a huge difference. And it's another big contrast to how I had been doing things prior to working with Daniel. I would be at the gym for 90 minutes to 2 hours before, and it was, absolutely exhausting. I was kind of for a while, our first set of workouts, they were all under an hour, or even some of them were 30 minutes. I was like, I feel like I'm cheating or something. This doesn't feel like, am I getting anything done at all? But I was seeing the results, and it really was just a mindset shift for me, to understand that overworking and overtraining is not getting me there any faster, actually.
Absolutely.
And that actually having some energy in reserve, feeling like I can go into the gym energetically and really attack the workout.
Yes.
That was a much better feeling.
With intensity.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that I would focus on, especially when you do your push pressures. I can see the intensity.
Yeah.
That's something that I really would like to incorporate to him. It's just that intensity, because you play an intense sport, a very intense sport. It's short, hard, and there's no reason to be in the gym for 2 hours if you're literally translating it into a short-term, high-intensity training. So that's exactly what we wanted to incorporate into his training style. So I'm very, very proud of you for that, and trusting me with that process and relaying that information back. I'm very appreciative of that, Aaron. But I have to commend it to you, the intensity you put into your workouts. I can see in your dips. I often tell clients, if you're not slowing down towards the end of your set, you probably can train a bit harder. And Aaron, you can see the speed go down. And that's what I want to see. I want the speed to go down. I want to see a bit of scrunching in the face.
With intensity.
Yes, you want to see with intensity, because if you do that, you don't have to train for 2 hours. So I'd rather have someone work hard, intense for 30, 45 minutes, get out, get recovered, get your nutrition in, go and lie on the bed, play with your dog, go for a walk, have fun, live, instead of spending 2 hours in there and just quote unquote wasting your time.
Yeah, I was definitely picturing Daniel's face as I'm doing some of those.
Good and bad.
Yeah. Little Daniel on my shoulder.
Go, one more. And Daniel, you mentioned sustainability. So how are you, maybe this is a question for Aaron, how are you looking at this as a lifelong venture? Whether it's setting different, changing your goals, whether it's, VO2 max is also a great indicator for longevity, which is a huge topic. But when you are thinking about the next 20 years, how are you thinking about your nutrition and your training and where that fits into how you're interacting with your coach, but how you're structuring your life in general?
Yeah, I think, I guess going back to kind of what I've been talking about, like even just like the workout lengths and such, what I really like where I'm at now is it feels sustainable. And that's gives me confidence that like going forward, this is something I can maintain even as I get older and probably have, less and less energy. Hopefully not, but like
not.
if I'm, doing more things or whatever, that's exciting to me that like, I think I've reached close to an equilibrium there where it's like, okay, I can kind of keep doing these workouts, keep with this nutrition, and it's not feeling like it's a diet or it's like a little, an effort that I'll do for a little while, but won't be able to keep going with. And, I'm loving like the food and everything. I keep finding like different recipes and things that kind of like, hit the macros and things. And it's not just like plain tofu and vegetables like I started with. So finding all these little things to kind of like help it feel more like a lifestyle instead of, a diet and a specific exercise program. And then when I finish, I'm going to go do something else and lose the progress. Yeah.
Yeah. And something that we incorporated with Aaron is deload weeks, specified deload weeks in diet or maintenance phases or diet breaks. And so that's a communication system that we have based on his recovery, based on his performance, based on his sleep, based on irritability. So that's a conversation that you have with him. It's like, listen, I'm getting a bit more irritable. My sleep isn't great. My hunger is either massively increased or crashed. There are various signs that the deload needs to be coming up. And so we take deloads when we need to, and that's really going to drive sustainability. And I'd love for you to be able to make those calls by yourself one day. It's like, listen, I'm feeling run down. These are the symptoms. Like, do I need a deload week? Look at your numbers. Well, I haven't been increasing for the past 2 weeks. My sleep hasn't been great. I probably need a deload week. And the same for something like nutrition. If you've reached where you want to be, which we've got with your fat loss phase, we go into maintenance phase. And we ride that maintenance phase out. We increase calories. We get to a place where his weight stabilizes. We're happy. He can go out with friends. He doesn't have to feel like he's chained to nutrition, something like that. If he wants to have one quote unquote nice meal a week or a few more calories every single day, we can do that. We can incorporate that. And then when we're in a point in life when we can make a conscious effort going after a specific goal, like, I want to lose X amount of pounds. I want to get ready for this season or something. And you can incorporate that into your work life, your emotional life, or all aspects of your life. You go for that goal, you reach it, you build off of that. You don't necessarily deload to the point where you step back. You just deload to sustain what you've achieved. And then you build on to the next thing if you wish to do so.
And Daniel, just in case people listening don't know what the word deload means, could you explain that briefly?
So when we talk about training, we always try and improve, right? That's something that you and I discussed. We always try and add load, add reps, correct? Right. So deload is where we're no longer capable of doing that anymore. And so the signs of a deload being needed is you're no longer really able to get stronger for whatever reason. Sleep gets weary a bit. Some people get irritable. Like I mentioned, some people get skyrocketing hunger or crashed hunger. And that's a conversation that obviously you can have with me, and that's great, but some people need to have them with themselves. And it's hard to have that honesty with yourself. As you mentioned earlier, you always thought you need to do more. And I'd love to dig into one day why people actually think that. Why do we always think that we do need to do more? That's a discussion for another day. So deload is where you take perhaps 1 week, perhaps some people need 2 weeks, where you scale back training. And I typically either cut back volume or intensity.
Okay.
One or the other. I wouldn't cut back both, but some people do need it if it's an emergency situation. And so if you were doing, let's say, 10 sets at RPE 8, you would do 10 sets at RPE 6, or if you did typically 12 reps, maybe cut it down to 6 reps. And so you do that for a week, you allow your body to recover, and it's kind of like pulling the drawstring back of an arrow to allow yourself to shoot forward again, because we'd rather preempt you crashing by taking, like, noticing those symptoms before they become a catastrophe, and saying, like, I'm going to take a week to get ready for this next phase. Or if you have an extremely hard time at work, so with the move or something, if the move was catastrophically difficult or something, you would take a deload week to allow himself to recover, because we're all human at the end of the day. And so you just take that week to recover and allow yourself to progress again.
Thank you for explaining.
I really appreciated that deload week after hitting my weight goal. And I could totally see if you hadn't set up those kind of segments, those kind of 3-month segments and stuff, and we hadn't been communicating, like, when I got down to, I think we got as low as 1,800 or so calories or something. And, there's just like, it was just kind of a diet fatigue after a while.
Yes,
exactly.
And it was just like, I don't know if I could have kept this going. No. And I don't know what would have happened if if I had been on my own and I'd just crash and maybe just go to a buffet and just, destroy it. Yeah.
And did the two of you, so a piece of nutrition that we didn't talk about was supplementation, where, again, it's $1 billion industry. And I'm sure in addition to the magnesium, you could take a whole host of supplements that, and Daniel, maybe you can give some perspective around the things that people take for fat loss and things that people take for muscle gain, knowing you have to do the work, you have to do the reps. But what are your thoughts on supplementation to support fat loss, muscle gain? And then what was your recommendation to Aaron about what supplements do you need to achieve your goals?
So the word supplement means supplementing a diet. So I would take a look at Aaron's chronometer. Are you getting your minerals? Are you getting your micronutrients? So let's try and incorporate most through whole foods. Not necessarily that whole foods are this magical thing, but supplements are called supplements for a reason. But there are certain things that I'd like to get from food if we can. Right. There are a few studies to show that the bioavailability of vitamins and minerals in food is a bit higher than in the pill form. But regardless, one of the things that we wanted to really work on was sleep. And so that's something that we really tried with supplementation to see if we incorporate some magnesium, zinc. Those are things that we helped. Fat loss, there's not a lot of supplements in the market that actually work. In fact, there are probably maybe one, green tea, but I don't even advocate it really that much because it does so little. It's just not worth it. And I don't know if you like the taste of green tea.
ECGC.
Yeah, I can't do caffeine at all. So yeah.
So it's not really something that we worked on. But muscle gaining, creatine is a great supplementation because it has great brain benefits as well. And with more muscle, you could potentially lose more fats as well because metabolic rate. And a lot of people say you bloat on creatine. So creatine, that whole idea that it bloats you, I think that's kind of a high school myth because high school students typically take like creatine and then super bulk 5XL at the same time. So they just consume everything and then a bunch of salt as well. So they end up bloating. But creatine is probably one of the biggest supplements that we worked on, and then a few things for sleep, but we didn't really do that much supplementation.
Yeah, I think the other one you mentioned to me was boron.
Boron, yes, of course.
Yeah.
For increasing free testosterone. There's a study called Nothing Boring About Boron. And so that's the only supplementation that I really advocate for men specifically. If they want to, it's not something that I say has to be done. It's something that I mention. I give them the study. I say, please read it, incorporate, read a bit more about boron, come back to me with questions. I'm not saying take this. I'd like to discuss it. Because it can increase free testosterone. So when males produce testosterone, some of it gets bound to something called sex hormone binding globulin, and that makes it inactive. And then the free testosterone that's left is the actual bioavailable testosterone. And so that's actually what's going to help you recover a bit better, grow anabolism. And so if we take boron, that lowers your SHBG. And so you have more free testosterone, which could potentially, even if it's a tiny bit, that could actually help you quote unquote boost your testosterone slightly compared to other testosterone boosters on the market, which don't have a lot of research behind them. They do have a research, but it's done on plants or it's done via plants, or done on animals or something like that. Whereas boron has an actual study called Nothing Boring About Boron. It's done on humans, it's done on adult males, and the studies show that it does work. So that's the only one that we really incorporated.
Okay. So you kept it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is the best way.
Yes.
And Aaron, you mentioned mindset indirectly when you were talking about your perfectionism, your kind of mindset shift regarding, do I need to do more in order to get more gains?
Yeah.
How have the two of you focused on mindset throughout this journey?
Yeah. I think for my part, like I said, that the schedule change and like just like having someone so knowledgeable like Daniel looking out for me and like trusting in him, knowing that like, okay, he says I can get away with, you know, this 45-minute workout or whatever. That was really powerful for me. It's just having that like guiding hand and giving me that plan to start with. Yeah.
I don't think Aaron presented himself with that he needed a big mind shift change. It's just about trust. It's about being in your own head, thinking that I have to do more. And I've been there myself. I've been there thinking you have to do more, especially in weight loss phases. We often catch ourselves thinking like, I should be eating less, like I should be doing more. I should get an extra 1,000 steps. But at the end of the day, you end up shooting yourself in the foot because giving up, let's say 30 minutes of sleep because you want to get 30 minutes of extra cardio, that's a really bad idea. Because we know there are studies showing that poor sleep can inhibit fat loss by 50%. So Aaron didn't present with I would say mindset that needed to be changed. It's just about trust. Aaron is extremely focused, extremely driven. He listens. He wants to inquire as to why we're doing things,
right? Which is important.
Which is very important, extremely important, because I want him to learn. I want him to know things. If I make an adjustment, I want him to think, okay, this is why we're doing it. I just want to confirm. I'm going to ask a question, but I kind of know why we're doing this already. Because if he knows the no, it's so much better for his own life. And if someone happens to ask him a question one day, he doesn't sit there babbling like, it's just what my coach says,
right.
Because he actually knows what we're doing, etc. And I think that's very powerful. And I have to give him comments that he asks the right questions, and so we can send the studies, we can look at it, we can talk about it, we can say, let's hop on a call this week, let's discuss it. This is why we're making these changes. And then it's about the fact that he trusted me, and I'm greatly appreciative of that. And he's been executing brilliantly, and the results show for themselves. He's gained strength. You did another scan. You lost weight. You gained strength. You posted about that in the Facebook community, and it was absolutely really heartwarming to see.
Yeah, that was actually what I was really driving for. Is like I just wanted like a really good like, you know, second DEXA scan after the first one that I'd done prior to joining. So that was really kind of fun to have a really specific goal, and I didn't know what, you know, exactly what the numbers would be, but I was really happy with it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that he got stronger. So he's progressively overloaded. And I could see with his push press, like there's more weights on the bar.
Fat and
getting stronger.
Yeah.
But as you probably know, that strength is a really good hallmark for overall health. Muscle tissue, great overall mark for overall health. People may look a certain way, but they're not necessarily healthy. But people who are strong, capable, and fit, like Aaron is, they have probably the healthiest health markers that we can find.
So what other things have the two of you been working on that we haven't touched on today? Particularly thinking about, again, I want to make sure people take away from this conversation, Aaron and Daniel, things that they can apply to their own health journey. Because not everyone may have Daniel as a coach. So what are some tangible, what haven't we talked about that you think would be worthwhile to share with the community? But more importantly, as we start to wrap up, what are those key lessons, maybe 2 or 3 things that people should get out your pen and paper, write these down, because these are going to help you on your own personal journey?
I think that one of the big things for you in the beginning was learning how to cook. Not only that you didn't know how to cook, but learning how to cook nice foods with good macros.
Yes.
That was a good thing to keep the diet kind of interesting. We say diet, but the meal plan, whatever you want to call it, to keep it kind of interesting. Because at the end of the day, healthy food can get a bit monotonous sometimes. It's your responsibility to not make it like that. You have to go out and buy the spices and experiment. You have to buy the sauces. I always make the joke when I want to open your fridge, I want to see condiments. and spices and sauces.
Yes.
Because that's how you know,
Yes.
like, you can really change, chip and change. So that's something that we really focus on. You came back to me, it's like, I feel like I only cook vegetables and protein. Like, listen, we need to incorporate recipes, we need to incorporate sauces and spices and things like that, because that's at the end of the day going to help you with sustainability a ton.
Yeah, I've become a sauceaholic. Like, I have so many in my cupboard now, because a lot of times some of the base proteins kind of need to be certain things, right?
Up.
Like the amazing soy-free tofu that I've been eating has like incredible macros. And yeah, it was another thing I kind of got used to doing, was like looking at like the calorie to protein ratio, which is not a thing I'd ever thought about before. But once once I saw like, okay, I need to hit this calorie range and this very high protein bar, it's like, okay, I can't be like wasting anything, right? So yeah, I just was like, I kind of indexed on high protein sources with low calories, and anything on the high satiety index I could also eat. Like potatoes were really high on that, but they're so caloric, I just kind of skipped them. But I would do like, I'd also read like How Not to Diet from Dr. Greger, and like he recommends like having an apple like 30 minutes to an hour before a meal and drink a lot of water. I hadn't been doing a very good job of that. So I was trying to just like pull all of the tricks I could to kind of like keep the hunger in control.
Yeah. And as we mentioned, Aaron was really pushing for fat loss. It was the last few weeks that hunger really, and that's a normal reaction. When you push for fat loss, there is supposed to be some hunger. When you get to the tail end, hunger is going to be a bit higher. But he also mentioned he noticed that diet fatigue coming up. He noticed it. He discussed that with me. And that's when you really need to say, how much can I still push before it breaks? And I'm going to pull back before it breaks.
Exactly.
And I think the next thing that we focused on is just progression in the gym. You have to train pretty hard. You don't have to train to failure, but you have to train within 3 RIR, 3 reps in reserve. So for those that don't know, it's if you like that last rep is someone needs to deadlift that bar off your chest, because otherwise it's going to kill you. The 3 reps shy of that is kind of where the sweet spot is. And so I really, like in the beginning, I messaged like, we had a few more in the tank there. That was his response. I often said to Aaron, like, we had a few more in there. I want to see you slowing down. And he really incorporated, he took that, and your progression got really, really good in the gym. I could see you slowing down and taking that advice and then on form as well.
Yeah, I think at the start, I had a little bit of those like beginner gains too, where I wasn't maybe hitting that high intensity, but I was still getting some progress. But as it went on, I really did need to like be pushing it more, because otherwise I was going to hit the same plateau I'd been at before joining. Yeah.
So that's probably the next thing that I probably want most people to write down if they have a pen and paper, just intensity in the gym. Was going to do so much more than time in the gym.
Right. But a lot of people don't know what intensity really means.
I often tell people if they're healthy to do so and they're capable, hop on a treadmill, hop on a spin bike, crawl off. That is failure. Like go until you crawl off. That is 0 RIR, 0 reps in reserve. Because it just means that's completely...
You've got nothing.
You've got nothing left. We don't want to train to that all the time. It's fun every now and then when you test a 1 rep max, but that's a discussion that you probably have with your coach if it's needed for your sport. He might do 1 rep maxes when we get into sprinting now, when we're going to start incorporating sprinting. And that's going to be sprinting, walking back, resting, sprinting again. A lot of people sprint, walk back, sprint again. I'm like, buddy, you're doing cardio now. We're trying to incorporate like high intensity. It's going to be like a set. Exactly. So it's going to be a sprint, walk back, relax, breathe, heart rate down, sprint again. You kind of incorporate or try to emulate what Usain Bolt does. Usain Bolt doesn't sprint, jog back, sprint again. No, he takes quite a bit of time to recover and then sprints again. So that's what we incorporate with you, just to incorporate that sprinting training, because we've done the work with you where we do the other cardiovascular capabilities about continuously going. We've covered that. We've got that in the bag for his preseason. And now we're just going to focus on that last part. And that's probably the last thing that I would incorporate. If you have specific goals, train for them.
Right.
If you have specific goals, and I love people that have specific goals, because then you know what you want to go for. Even if it's something as simple as taking 10,000 steps a day, taking 5,000 steps a day. Yeah. It's a great goal sometimes for some people, and I understand that. But focus on that, work for that, keep that in your mind, and have a goal, go for something. And don't be afraid of failure, because there's no failure, there's only learning. You just learned something new.
Only failure is not trying.
That's true.
Yeah.
There was one other thing when dealing with hunger. I remember I asked you about, because sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would just be absolutely famished.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked you, I was like, well, what can I do in this situation? It's like, I didn't want to eat, but I was also like I was going mad with hunger some nights, I think you said basically like reach for protein, right?
Yeah. Protein is a very high satiety, right? So I believe I shared with you like the better bagel that's available here in the States is mostly protein. And then we call it protein mud. So you like take like protein, a bit of PB2, a tiny bit of soy milk or almond milk, and you create like a spread that you can put over a toasted bagel. That's actually very nice. And if you want to go savory on the other side, you would take that soy-free tofu that he mentioned from Big Mountain Foods. And so you can have like half a bagel that's sweet, half a bagel and it's mostly protein. And it's going to keep you satiated. And as we know from the studies done in 2014 by Dr. Jose Antonio, where they ran 2 groups of people, one group ate, I think, 5 times the recommended protein amount by the government. And the other group ran way less, but they ate the same amount of carbs and fats. So the one group ate more than 500 calories more than the other group just from protein. The net result, fat loss, everything after 12 weeks, identical. So even if you overconsume on protein, I don't say there's any benefit because they didn't gain more muscle, but it's probably not going to have a negative impact. There is a point of return. Obviously, you can't eat like 1,000 grams of protein a day and expect to be okay. I mean, your poor toilet. But if you want to reach for something and you have the capability to do so, protein is a very, very good one. But that's one of the big reasons I gave that to you is because you were very, very focused on your goals. And I could see that every week when I spoke to you, like it was something that you wanted to strive for that. And I absolutely love that. If someone has a goal and they're willing to put in the work like you did every single time in the gym, I'm going to give you the tools to get there. And I'm going to be there for you, but I'm also going to be honest with you. Like, this is what we have to do. And I appreciate that you put in the work and you were honest about what you wanted to achieve and what you could do, and discussing back with me when it got too much, because it's going to get too much at some point for everyone, even for you, for myself, for everyone. And then you learn how to deload, reset, and go again.
How about you, Aaron? Any words of wisdom that you want to share?
Yeah, I guess I really didn't think I could do it to start with. So I think you just have to really trust in yourself and trust in the process, that like you're not different than anyone else. Ultimately, like if you put in the work, you will get results. Yeah.
Put in the work, you will get results.
And that's a big thing that I want to give you. We as coaches, we can say so many beautiful things, but it's up to you in the end to put in the work. And I want to commend you for actually doing that brilliantly, taking what I say, trusting me, and I'm really appreciative of that. But at the end of the day, it's you that needs to get up in the morning. It's you that needs to get to the gym. It's you that needs to cook the healthy food, stay up to maybe cook some extra food for the next 2 days, still needs to go to work, taking like packaged food to work when everyone's going for lunch at like a restaurant. And that takes a ton of effort, and I want to give it to you. That's excellent. And I'm so incredibly proud of you.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but you look amazing. And you look happy, which I think is the most important thing.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I want to thank you. This has been amazing. You know, I losing fat and gaining muscle is the aspiration for many people. And many people don't achieve it, or they don't achieve it in a balanced fashion. So really appreciate you sharing, Daniel, how you've been able to coach Aaron, and Aaron, your lessons and just your path to get where you are. And look forward to seeing where you're going next in terms of what you and Daniel do together.
Thank you very much, Daphne. I appreciate it. And thank you, Aaron, for taking the time to get on this. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to get back on the computer and design your new program for you. I am really excited because it reminds me of when I used to do sports fields work. So every time I speak to Aaron, I'm like, how's Aaron doing? Like, I want to see him perform. I kind of want to go watch one of your games and be there with you.
That would be awesome.
So it's always fun. It's always fun chatting with you and working with you, Aaron. I really appreciate your time and your effort.
Well, I appreciate your time and effort, Daniel, honestly. Like, I couldn't have done it without you.
No, I couldn't have done this without you. It's brilliant to help people. But again, you came to me, you had such a clear, vivid image of what you wanted to approach. And I'm so appreciative of that. I can grasp onto that and help you and guide you so much. And the up and upwards from here, my friend.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for joining us today. As I said earlier, losing fat and gaining muscle, it's a challenge. And I hope you were able to take home some practical tips from our conversation with Coach Daniel and Aaron. But we want to hear from you. If there are other questions you have about the struggle, the challenges, I won't call it a struggle, because it's really how you are either coached or how you are educated to understand how to optimize a lot of the things that you already know. You just have to put them into practice, hold yourself accountable, and continue to make progress over time. Thanks so much for listening today, and we'll see you on the next episode. Be well.